Okay, so we have some interesting transits coming up in the sky within the next 2 weeks that we want to make conscious. We were just looking at the current planetary condition, and we have 4 planets in their own sign. When the planets are in their own sign, they can bring about their conditions more fully. So Taurus is in Venus, and she's actually conjunct Juno, which is like the sacred marriage bed and the sacred embodiment of the divine feminine. Venus there is love and sensuality, romance, everything that you can feel with your physical body and really embody your earthly nature. So when she's conjunct Juno, the sacred marriage bed becomes a topic. And that's been something that I've been really looking into. Claude and I have been investigating further and further. What are the taboos there? What does that mean? What if we press into something that has been culturally taboo? And Venus is giving us that power right now in Taurus. The other thing we have is Mercury is in Gemini, and Magdalene, the asteroid Magdalene, is sitting between the sun in Gemini and Mercury in its own sign, the power of the starry messenger communicating that energy of Magdalene. So the line of Mary, the house of the Magdalenian priestess, the energy of the divine feminine mother is being communicated. And the group can, add anything that they're, with these planets in their own sign that's coming up for them. The other thing that we all know for a long period now is that we have Saturn retrograding in its own sign of Capricorn, causing us to have our own kind of definition, our boundaries, our ability to lay down the law and stand in our own divine essence. That has been transiting with Pluto also retrograde. Since they're retrograde, they're giving us a little reprieve right now from like the massive amount of purging from our collective past that had been going on. So we're kind of in a rewind period and review. And then what was the 4th? So we had, Jupiter. Jupiter's retrograde in Sagittarius, going back towards the great attractor right now. So Jupiter in its own sign retrograde is allowing us to rewind a little bit more towards how impeccably just life is, but it's going back towards the big, beautiful, feminine magnetic void of the great attractor. So those 4 signs, or those 4 planets, are in their own signs where everything feels a little bit more relaxed and in its natural state. But what we're aiming for in this conversation in the next 2 weeks is Mars, which is not in its own sign and is out of bounds, meaning its declination from the orbit of the sun is several degrees beyond its natural orbit. So it's not kind of in the gravitational cycle that it usually is with the whole solar system. And it's in Cancer, which is the sign of the feminine waters, where Mars usually is not that happy. But because it's out of bounds, it's teaching us something very specific. And we might have some examples of what that actually looks like in the life that we can all start to move towards intentionally during these next 2 weeks. So Mars will enclose the North Node in Cancer with Mercury. So they'll kind of be on either side of our destiny point for our planet in the feminine waters of Cancer, making an opposition to Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn. So the full line of awareness, where the Earth is right in the middle, where these superpower planets pulling from either side their energetic bodies onto Gaia's consciousness. So if we make it conscious and really cause the conversation of what this shift could mean, then the celestial bodies can bring their full potential down to Earth. So when Mars is completely out of bounds, it like has no restriction. And Holly was just sourcing, and people are welcome to look at astro.com or Cafe Astrology for the out of bounds tables, but we're sourcing right now that on June 14th, Mars will begin to come back into its solar orbital period in which it has full gravitational with the rest of the planets, meaning it's not declination north or south far away from the sun, but it's more inbounds and starts to bring about its full potential. But here's my question, okay? And this is a quote from my friend Anya Lightheart. So Anya has been asking this question, and I'm going to use this one for us today. If we are not consciously creating, are we creating by default? If we are not consciously creating, are we somehow creating by default from within a matrix system? And what I'm going to pose to the group with these planets in their own sign, but also Mars and Mercury making the opposition to Saturn and Pluto, which is usually like the package of fear of like the things, the discipline, the hardship, the almost like suffering aspects of Saturn. When Mars makes that opposition, can we consciously let go of all the storylines, which happened in my yoga class? We had a big conference this morning about whether we had to really suffer to be here on the planet. Do we have to be fearful? Do we have to slave? Do we have to live in lack? Do we have to continually worry about where the resources are going to come from? And Saturn and Pluto have transited with the south node of our collective past saying, do you want to continue that dependency system? Do you want to be just dependent on the matrix, or do you want to be a conscious creator? So this group has been talking about this, and you can watch our other videos, but I'm going to suggest that the matrix is over. And we're in a void point right now of conscious creation where we can decide moment by moment how our day is going to go and what the new templates for Gaia are going to be. So if anyone feels to jump right in and say what conscious changes they have made in their life, and they know that they don't have to live by that old system, that old storyline, the old templates of fear and suffering and lack and even slavery, and you feel to talk about what any of these transits mean, go ahead and jump in at any time. Just even like, how is your day going today? How is it different from the old templates of suffering? So I'll be quiet now.
I think I'll start. I think that, you know, I have made a lot of conscious choices to make changes in my life to work from a more joyful place and to not be so fearful in a more corporate system where in this corporation I work, meeting benchmarks and productivity goals were very important, and yet I didn't feel emotionally fulfilled. So I left that for a career that I currently feel is more emotionally fulfilling. And then, you know, still making intentions to do further shifts to be really creating from this place of authenticity in the inside. And I think it's so interesting that right now that Mars is out of balance, because I feel like Mars has a lot to do with our kind of like our first chakra, which is that survival skill, and how we kind of sustain and live, you know, on the planet. That kind of like, can you make your basic needs be met? And I think it's interesting with this out of bounds phenomenon. It's like we're kind of getting this cosmic, and this is how it feels to me, this kind of cosmic support right now for Mars to connect more cosmically and get out of that solar track of what it's been like. And it's like, okay, you know, it doesn't have to be the way it is. You can get in tune with the cosmic flow. So those are just some of my experiences. I was telling Lolita before we started that I had set an intention to be more of a morning person, and this seems to be happening. And I didn't even really realize it. And then just through our conversation, had had realized, you know what, I had wanted to become more of a morning person, and it's happening. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning, and I'm a little bit drained at this point, um, but it's very interesting there. I had that kind of almost subconscious thought, oh, I wish my mornings would go better. And it's being created, it's manifesting with some effortlessness. And then probably the more focus I put into it, that I'm transforming into this morning person that gets up and gets my morning stuff done and has a better day because I have a good morning, will help me with that kind of survival, living those daily, day-to-day, get things done Mars type activities, and sometimes I've struggled with. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, so I'm going to just pull forward what Holly was saying. Mars for me also is the first chakra, and I hadn't even thought of that, Holly. That's really profound, because I'm now also realizing that the first chakra has everything to do with, do you feel safe enough to then move into your sexuality, your creativity, your free will? So Mars getting out of the sun's orbital pull and kind of being its own rebel right now allows that authenticity. Like, I'm not afraid of my safety, security, and survival for chakra stuff right now. That's very interesting, because all of us talked before we got on about how we're all kind of like almost dreamy, tired, like a little bit woozy, not feeling like spunk, but that is also because I feel safe. Like, I feel supported. There's nothing worrying me that's kind of pressing all of my anxiety buttons right now. So Mars is the first chakra, definitely. Do you feel safe on the planet? And the other thing that came to me when Holly was speaking is when Mars and Mercury, which are fairly close to the sun and have a lot of gravitational pull, are opposite Saturn and Pluto, and the Earth is right in the middle. This is also something that can cause an enormous amount of gravity such that we shift those internal poles. So a lot of people have been talking about the pole shift and the pole wandering. But when we have that opposition, we have the ability to shift that pole inside, to move from Saturn, Pluto fear to Mars and Mercury's ability to co-create with the North Node of the divine feminine waters, to really nurture ourselves outside of those more ancient patriarchal structures that said it's got to be suffering, it's got to be hardship. And, I have a yoga student who really pushes my buttons, and he says, I'm going to get off of this deck right now and go and do something productive, and you can all just sit around and keep doing your mental masturbations. And I'm going, I think we should make a video of women masturbating on the deck right now. Would that not just push everybody's buttons? And all of you people who want to go and suffer, go ahead. But for me, I'm starting to really, like, even in my yoga classes, I'm not able to behave, which I think is that Mars quality also. So now I'll be quiet and see who else wants to jump in.
I'll jump in, but I'm just walking back. I was going out of bounds. I thought I'd just say that I've had really, and yeah, I think what you were saying about there being an opportunity to not feel, to feel safe, to express yourself. And I feel really, I'm not sure if it's Venus and Taurus as well, really, that's really amplifying that, is like that letting go and feeling this safe embrace of everything. And I wonder also if this is Uranus and Taurus, but I feel like I'm getting so much like guidance, almost like I can stop and I just know what to do. And I almost have like conversations of just direct inner like knowledge. Okay, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I want to do, and then the manifestation is just quite quick. So it's quite interesting. But at the same time, I do feel like it's almost like I feel things coming up in my body. Like, can I operate outside of fear? And then I feel like the pain in like a certain part. But then I find kind of healing method to then walk through it. So it's like I'm aware of the fear, but then I know that it's not real because, well, it is real, but I know that it's not the end game because I've then got this like this music or this like mantra or this thing that I can walk through with it. So I feel like really aware of my fears, but somehow just really comforted in them because it doesn't feel like it's not the end game, you know, like it's not. And exactly, coming back to creating, what do I create? And you listen to this video by this guy, what's his name, Jason Estes, and he was talking about creating from your capacity to choose, do I want to create fear or abundance or freedom, whatever. And you know, before we might have felt hooked into the fear and we didn't have a choice, maybe consciously, I don't know, but at least now it's like we literally can choose what Lego brick do we want to put with what Lego brick. And so I actually started practicing it the other day. I was thinking, okay, the fear, and I'm literally just going to create this other thing and bring it in. And then I just created more time. I just like it just felt like something expanded, and then I was like, oh, that's what I wanted. So yeah, I think those are my thoughts about that.
Yeah, I watched that video by Jason Estes, and it was on a program called Samadhi Speaks. So if people want to access that program, go to Samadhi Speaks, and then there's a playlist of Jason Estes. And he had some interesting comments that I was noticing about the fifth dimensional consciousness is a creation consciousness, and that it manifests immediately. So we're in this kind of playland dream time, which we've talked about in this group before. We're in like a void space going, are you ready to be instant manifestors? Because anything that you think will instantly manifest. So any storyline you're still telling yourself that is about poverty or fear or suffering is going to instantly manifest. So we're getting this little like breathe time right now going, do you realize that you're capable of expanding time like Emmeline does? Like you can create enormous pockets of time because the fifth dimension operates just above the construct of time, which is kind of like Mars being out of bounds. It's not held by time or space like it usually is. So we're all experimenting right now with, if we really want to enjoy life, will that work? Will it work to just play and be happy and create and have a beautiful life? My partner Claude is doing that now for the first time in his life since his Chiron return. He's finished his Chiron return. He's 50 years old. And he decided, like, essentially the day before his 50th birthday, that he was going to quit a job that was very fearful, that was always trauma-based, that was long, long hours and a lot of suffering. And he decided to stay home and see what happened. And immediately we went off to Kauai and had the most magical thing. But then after that, he came back and he had like this dream time place of really making the yard beautiful and our life beautiful. And many, many people asked him, do you want to work for me? Do you want to do this project? Do you want to do this odd job? Do you want to do this? And he was like flooded with so many opportunities. He had to say, no, I'm just working, a few hours a week to make sure that we have security in home and family. But no, I'm not taking on those big fear packages anymore of tons of work and endless struggle, because I don't believe it anymore. And he's in the yard right now, and he's a completely changed man. Now that whole Venus conjunct Juno has become our main construct, like making love and the sacred marriage bed and the co-creation of a beautiful reality. And it works because the old templates are really over. The matrix is actually over. And we're all kind of like testing the water, saying, like, is it going to be okay if I just consciously create something beautiful for myself? Or is some trauma going to happen and I'm going to get stung? So my mother watches all my videos. So this is another piece that I want to pull out too. My mother knows all, and today's her birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Mom. Happy birthday. She knows all of my supernatural things, like that I travel in a star Merkaba, and that I'm from the galaxy, and that I'm having an Earth incarnation. And she knows all about the 3D matrix and the simulation here and the different races and the different dimensions that are here. Like, you would think possibly that telling your mom and all of the people at work and everybody that you encounter the full-on factual truth of your reality would scare them. But I want you to know that my mom and everyone, you all see me posting and making these videos, knows all the details, and they still love me. So that's another interesting place to go, is my mom will listen to the videos on Isis and Osiris and the ceremonies that I do of Frey and Freya, and being with a group of people handing around the crystal lingam and doing these tantric practices, and my mom still loves me. So the other thing that we can press into is to help our ancestry to let go of those storylines that traumatize them and keep them in suffering and lack, is we are the ones who have to kind of press through. I have to show everyone in my family that it's okay to live an abundant life. And that was incredibly scary, because I thought I was going to be outcast by my family by living an incredibly beautiful, abundant, sensual life. But I wasn't. So we can let go of all that storyline also, that somehow will suffer like loss of family. It has not happened. In fact, it's incredibly liberating for my family to see me live like this, because, and they're watching now, okay, my daughter posts my blogs on her Instagram, so she knows what I write on Galactic Shaman Astrologers. They are so liberated by the way that I live. They're proud of me. You know, they say, Lalita, Kachina is my daughter, read this blog about the Scorpio full moon and taking the red pill. No one's going to be ashamed of you if you step out of these old storylines. So that's a first chakra thing of Mars and stability and home and family and safety too. So I want to see if anyone has anything to say about that.
I just wonder how to bring this back, because we're talking about the first chakra and the I am. It reminds me of the Chiron, of Chiron in Aries. And I just wonder, I'm just going to look actually if it's conjunct anything. I just wonder if it's relevant to what Mars is doing.
Well, Emmeline, do you know why that would be relevant? Because Aries is ruled by Mars. Okay, so all the astrologers out there who are remotely interested in this kind of stuff, I am, and I have the right to be here is Aries, and Mars is the ruler of Aries. So Chiron being in Aries and having that wound of, do I have the right to exist, or am I going to be an outcast, is very similar to Mars being out of bounds right now. Am I going to be an outcast if I don't have the gravitational pull from the rest of the planets and just do what I need to do authentically? It's very similar, Emily. Go ahead and talk about it. What do you think it means?
Well, I guess it might be Mars's expression in the capacity to be, can I nurture myself? Can I, and then later aspecting with Juno and the North Node, if that will come to pass, won't it? So can I, and then it's sort of further, can I nurture myself, and can I come into union with myself and then with another? I'm just wondering about the trine with Scorpio as well, because then Mars is ruling Scorpio. So it's like, can I stand as who I am without the fear of the taboos? Can I carry that, hold the head high, and can I go there and be that, express that, and come out of the shadows, come out of the hiding, which personally for me speaks a lot to me with the Scorpio. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in. So people in this group study their own chart regularly. And having a session with me and having your chart done once is very activating and a very mind-opening. But what Emmeline is realizing right now is that Mars's movements through Cancer are going to trine all of her planets in Scorpio. So if you've been following our videos, you know that Emmeline has 4 planets in Scorpio. And Scorpio has that occult nature of the things that are otherwise hidden, things that people don't really want to go into, the taboos. And Scorpio is also like the genitals. And what's happening with Mars trining all of those planets for anyone on the planet, not just Emmeline, but I also have Neptune in Scorpio. Everyone is getting that trine right now from Mars going, are you ready? Because Jason Estes said that he had a lot of planets in Scorpio. And one of his main things was the sacred sexuality is coming up for him. And he talked about how the codes of Mary are coming on in June, which is very interesting because we know that Magdalene is channeling. Well, maybe she is channeling. Magdalene is traveling with Mercury right now. Maybe she's going to continue to travel with Mercury during this opposition of Mercury and Mars on the north node of our collective destiny into the feminine waters. Holly, you had something to say about also the valuing of nurturing over that, the valuing of suffering and fear with the north node there. Do you want to talk about that? Are you unmuted? Unmute, Holly.
All right. So one of the things that I've been thinking about this week, and I kind of alluded to in the chats, and that I've been, from looking at my own chart and the chart of some folks that I look at, and they allow me to study their charts, and also from, because this idea of work and pleasure of work versus fear at work, and I'd been thinking about that too. And I work in the healthcare industry, which to me is a very Cancer type of industry, and it has some Scorpio. It's in it too. I know a lot of nurses, and in fact, I know a nurse that's a Cancer sun, and I know a nurse that's she's a Pisces. She's a Pisces sun, Pisces rising, and I was like, I know these watery people, and they have said, what's going on? Because we are feeling very agitated. They're feeling very agitated about certain structures that are changing in my workplace, about how care is given, and it got me thinking is that one of these things we feel is that this difference between Capricorn and Cancer, where Capricorn is really the physical things of our dimension, and it's, you know, Saturn there, he's the gardener, the great kind of tender of the fields in some of his highest capacity. He does nurture, but he nurtures the ground and he nurtures agriculture. But that does not always have the emotional component factored in. And the Cancer is that emotional nurturing. It's the tending of the children and the mother, and the kind of that mother bear quality. And historically, the caregivers have not been paid as well as like manual laborers, or people who are building corporations and businesses, or building a business from the ground up, whatever it be, whether it be a farm or a steel mill or whatever. It's been factories and banking that is the money, which does not have that emotional component. And so I think one of the things that this Mars out of bounds has kind of allowed this, in one aspect of it, is that these people who are emotional caregivers are saying, I want to be valued, and I want emotional caregiving to be valued, like like driving a delivery truck across the country to be valued. My work has that same value. And even in the home, homemakers often do not feel as valued as the partner that is bringing in the paycheck. It's I think one of these shifts that needs to be recognized is that sometimes doing that emotional caregiving is still work. And then we don't need to be fearful of that, but to embrace that and say, and give it that same kind of value as tending the physical reality. So that was kind of where I was going with that train of thought. And also in my own mind, trying to like get that balance, because so much is going on in Cancer and Capricorn right now. And I agree with you too, that kind of the trining too is Scorpio, and the just Mars being in a place of, it's okay for me to stand in my feelings. It's okay for me to embrace my sexuality the way I want to express it. It's okay for me to provide for myself in the way that feels right for me. Rather than being in a structured physical box in this old ways of saying this is the right way to do it or not. So that's kind of some of my thoughts on that.
Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's amazing what you were saying about the nurses and the agriculture, and having that, there's two things pointing at each other. And what reminded me is Cancer for me is in the 10th house of career and public role, and that's really interesting, because personally there's been a huge shift for me for being able to take stand and know I am who I am, and I was sort of sharing more publicly about that bit by bit and being able to expand that. But before, that feeling of, can I do that? Is that okay? Is that really a thing? Or do I have to find the kind of structure that's already built that doesn't feel right but kind of fits, the kind of compassionate structure but isn't really me, but is the only thing that looks like me? How can I be me? And then, and for me there's a Chiron in there too, so it's like, oh but it's really interesting. Yeah, really interesting that the North Node is there as well. So we're heading into the space of figuring this out. This Gaia mother energy. we're going into that. And it's amazing that Mars is like supporting that, because classically you say, you know, Mars is like this crazy warrior, you know, it's like, that's amazing. Like he's bringing all of his, you know, he's almost bowing his head going through the waters, you know, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to lay down for you. It's almost like a return to the divine mother of the masculine, like just being like, yeah.
Yeah, and I can kind of speak to a friend of mine, who I happen to know is a natal Mars and Cancer out of bounds, and right now Mars is in Cancer, and you know, I was talking to him over the weekend, and kind of acknowledging the shift in him, where he had a lot of the traditional astrology says Mars in Cancer is like a victim mentality. And when I first met this person, I could see that was there was a bit of that there, that these things have happened to me, and things have been hard, and then how things have shifted, where he has gotten new perspective and incorporated a lot of loving of and forgiveness into himself of, yep, these things happened and it's hard and it's difficult, but I'm I'm feeling now a little bit more healed about things, and so to kind of like kind of see that happen on a personal level has been kind of an amazing thing. And it's very different because my natal Mars position is Leo, which is like fire on fire. Like Leo, like Mars is not challenged. It is not challenged to grow as much in Leo as Mars in Cancer is in. And I feel like with all, like so many of the other visible planets in their home easy turf with the energies they're comfortable, it's almost like they're stepping back and they said, Mars, this is your time to like shift and grow, and they're giving Mars space to kind of shed some of that old south node stuff and, you know, be in that north node space of more feeling in touch with a nurturing emotional body, really kind of clearing out that like first chakra survival stuff, that are, you know, more sensual sexuality, where it connects with Scorpio and even the sensuality of the mother energy. So it's all of these things have kind of been stirred up this week, so it's been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, well, luckily we have a couple of weeks to talk about this, because I mean, everything and it's 444 again right now. So I had no idea how this conversation would go, but I felt like it was an important topic. If you don't speak this kind of astro language, just kind of stay in there with us. I know it's, you know, we're throwing around some terms about Mars and its condition right now, but this is incredibly important. If you listen to what Holly's saying about Mars is having its chance, or like Emmeline said, to like really dive into the feminine waters and rise up instead of being a victim mentality or a tragedy, letting go of all of those storylines around the tragedy and being like the defender of the mother, like being the steamy passion for the mother, which is how we're going to flip this whole script. So the other thing that's going to happen on July 14th and July 15th is when Mars is transiting with the North Node, our collective destiny towards the feminine waters, which is where we are right now, it's going to be also trining Neptune in Pisces. So Neptune in Pisces can go one of two ways. And Jason Estes talked about this too. He talked about the major purge we had all just been through, which was 3 months of Saturn and Pluto in an applying conjunction, as far as I'm concerned, you know, where we were purging massive amounts of collective past. But also a large group of people on the planet are, he said, 1 in 10 are using some kind of medication that alters the state. And that's you've all watched my videos at Galactic Shaman Astrologers. Pisces in Neptune is that altered state. So you're either going to do a conscious altering of your state, like we're suggesting here, by creating consciously, and or you might be using some medications, which includes marijuana or CBD or opiates or whatever. What was beautiful about what Jason was saying is that we're all going to get there, whether you're using marijuana or not. And that's why he had integrity for me. Okay, so for me, even if you've committed suicide and you needed to check out during this past 3 months that were very difficult and the suicide rate did rise quite a bit, it doesn't matter. We're all going to get there. What we have right now are some new templates for people who are ready to really step into that conscious co-creation with Mars on the Cancer North Node and say, you know, the story doesn't have to be a tragedy anymore. We can value nurturing. We can value mothering, nursing, the feminine empathy, compassion. That's where Mars is a great defender. And what I had written to the group this week was, so now say that we flipped all the scripts and people can really consciously create whatever reality that they want to do. Now just imagine with me, okay? Because I looked at this a couple of years ago when I stepped out of all employment. I'm completely self-employed. When I stepped out of all jobs out there, I had to say, you know, am I going to just sit in my hammock and drink beer? So if we really don't have any fear-based programming to make us work, like you don't have to pay the taxes, because I also was sent a video by a woman who very clearly explains that none of this money is real. It's all fiat money being created. There's no backing whatsoever. It's all fake money anyways. So say we get rid of all the money. And I want you to ask yourself this question every day now. If the money is all over, will you still go out there and plant your garden or create your chocolates or help somebody in healthcare or go to a children's party and stand on your head and blow big bubbles and help the children be happy? Will you continue to do some kind of earthy work? Or will you go in the hammock and drink beer? And again, doesn't matter which way. If you want to smoke pot all day and just be stoned, you're also going to get there. But what do people think? You know, if all this money absolutely was gone tomorrow, what would you do?
I feel like I think I would just get bored if I was in a hammock. I just have so much I want to do and create and manifest, and I would feel it's funny actually, because I feel like the money works in my favor, because sometimes, you know, I'm like, I need to make this money, and then the need just creates this capacity to me to just create this output, this idea, this common, just and you know, it works in the opposite way too, where you can feel stressed. But that's really amazing. But I do feel, I was thinking about this today because I remember we were questioning it on our group. I would enjoy the sharing of expressions and authentic creations with one another, and perhaps, you know, maybe the exchange. I feel like there'd still be the exchange, the energy exchange, whatever it is. Maybe we'd exchange crystals. That would be really great. But we've got to live our passion. We've got to create on the globe what we want to create. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the question I want everyone who's viewing and this group to start to ask within the next couple of weeks while these alignments start to come in. Because we really are creating the new templates right now. We're in this void place where we've passed the galactic alignment, and Gaia is saying, do you want to continue the fear-based dependency system of mind control where you all are moved around by finance and stress and fear? Or every day, are you getting up and doing something that you truly love and would contribute? Truly love and would contribute. And a couple of years ago, so it was even in 2016, I had to make those decisions where I had to decide that I would get up and do this work whether there was money or not. So you all know that I'm an astrologer and I love doing sessions. I like, whoa, is that a fun job? And if you're one of my clients, you know how much fun it is because we have an amazing time every time I do a chart. But I also board dogs. I have 4 dogs in the backyard right now. Would I take care of people's dogs? Yeah, because they want to go away. They want to go and travel. And sometimes I want to go away. And that would be an exchange. So when I go away, somebody has to take care of my horses, my dog, my cats. It's an exchange that happens. I do have the feeling after having a couple of years of really being able to test this, because I live in a very unique way, because I'm a homesteader, I don't have that many bills. So I actually live kind of subsistently with a glorious garden with tons of food and firewood that's falling everywhere that Claude cleans up off of people's yards, and we burn it. So we have no fuel expense. We have very little food expense. My kids are grown up, so there's very little kid expense. And I live mortgage free because I bought a tiny little cabin and put the walls and floors and windows in myself. So I have no mortgage and haven't had for years. So I live in a unique situation to really test this. I have no debt and I could do anything I want. And I still choose to do things. I still choose every day to be like, yeah, I want to talk to people. I want to do my astrology sessions. I board dogs and I also take care of horses because people need some help. They want to go away. I'll take care of your animals. And I really enjoy that exchange with or without money. So everyone watching this video, start to really question yourself over the next couple of weeks when these planets start to move into the opposition. What is the full light of awareness? Do we need to keep creating from a mind control system of dependency and fear? Or do we really enjoy every authentic thing that we do? And we're authentically doing it, like with honest speech and honest interactions. So I'll see what you all want to say there on that.
I did feel like I wanted to say, Holly, please go ahead in a moment. I was thinking the other day that because I've been feeling as I'm doing bits and bits more and more about what's my passion, I feel so fulfilled, and I'm waking up at like 5 a.m. in the morning the other day because I'm really excited about the day. And it's like, yeah, this is, even if it's 10% more of what I'm passionate about, I'm getting filled up. And I'm realizing that we have this mindset programming which says, go to work and get drained. I go to work and I get drained. And because so many people every day recite that mantra, it's like this resounding, go to work and get drained. And then you need a holiday to recover from your work, and a nice long bath and a weekend to recover from work. So you're never really on a high, you're always recovering and then getting drained. So I was just thinking about that and thinking, what if it's flipped, what if work is actually the place that we get the most energized because we're doing our thing? And that really changes everything, because then you can do as much as you want or as little as you want, but it's really based on excitement and joy. And then the manifestation, the abundance, whatever you need flows, because you're really starting to stand as your kind of energy pillar. So just a great thought.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So I think I really resonate with that, Emmeline, and I think that's like a personal goal of mine, is to create and work from that place of joy. I really that idea feels good to me, and like today I was gonna go and walk on the beach, and I was super energized to go do it. I got up at like 5 o'clock, and I went and walked on the beach, and I think the difference from when you are going to a job that you are just slogging through, and you can barely drag yourself out of bed, to when you go and you're doing every day what you're excited about, is just so different and energizing, that it's amazing. And to me, like, this is a little bit too the pull in that we're in, like, we've shifted from Taurus season to Gemini season, and with the sun in Gemini, and I think that is a very Gemini type of thing, where it gets very excited. It's mercurial. It gets excited about doing little projects and investigating things, and it's like the little busy happy bee. And and as a Gemini rising, that feels really good to me. Like, really going into the world with that kind of almost childlike, playful attitude, where everything is exciting, and new discoveries are to be made, and you get to, Mercury is like the magician. He's like wanting to like create things, and for me, like, the real goal is, what is the next thing that I can create and get excited about.
Yeah, we have 6 people on the call, and somebody might not have the mute on because we hear some kids, which is great too. But we have 6 people on the call, and we definitely hear some kiddos, but that's good too, because that's something that Jason Estes, and again, I don't believe anyone, it's great to hear different perspectives, but Emmeline and I heard Jason Estes speak about the hopefulness, the innocence, that inner child thing coming through, where every day I get up at 5 because I want to. Like, I can't wait to get out of bed. I'm so energized. I don't have an alarm clock. I don't even have a clock to look at. And the sun is up and I'm ready to go. I can't wait to get outside. It's a totally different template that is coming in now, the more that we make this conscious. Just like everything that people have said in this group, that I have a choice. It's not about suffering and slaving because I won't survive other ways. And that's Mars saying, you're safe, you're secure. I'm here holding the mother energy. I'm here supporting the divine feminine waters. So I'm feeling that the more that we can make this conscious over the next 2 weeks, and ask people to start, all who are listening to this video, whatever group you're working with, wherever you are in the world, get that conscious creation thing going. It's the quote from Anya Lightheart that I started with. If we are not consciously creating, are we creating by default? And I know she wrote it a slightly different way. So Anya, you can fix that if you comment. But if we're creating by default within the matrix, based on the programming that our parents had, or the programming that the old templates had, then Earth is holding that frequency for us, saying, okay, we'll just keep doing the dependency and struggle and suffering thing, because that's what you seem to be choosing. If we really choose to wake up every day and go, wow, what can I do today? You know, I mean, like, it's vast what I can do. There's anything I can do today. I can get up and go see the sunrise. I can get up and make chocolates with gold in them, which of course I'm referring to Emmeline's new business. And oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. The other thing that's happening, which is really interesting, is when you make these offerings that are straight from your own creativity, other people can't help but support that with their energy. So as soon as Emmeline put that up, that she was going to make chocolate, vegan chocolate with Ethereum gold and ashwagandha, I was like, sign me up. Energy exchange coming your way. And so we're creating our own economy. You know, we're creating our own economy based on your beautiful creativity, whatever you want to offer. And I know that Shannon and Ken are probably listening to this call because it was their kids that probably I could hear. But Ken, the way that I see you as the bubble man, and I know Ken's some of his personal details, that he dresses as this bubble guy and he goes out to children's schoolyards and different social events and he blows these enormous bubbles like the size of an elephant. And they're all colorful and the children are all dancing and it's like he's making these cosmic bubbles from heaven. And I think, you know, Ken, when I had little girls, I hired a professional clown, like a magic man, to come and do magic things with my children and blow bubbles and do magic tricks and give them all outfits and pull things out of their sleeve and all that stuff. And I'm going, Ken, you don't know how amazing that is. That just brings so much joy and beauty to the world. And I say, can you monetize that? Absolutely, man. In every schoolyard and every kid's birthday party and every family reunion, I want the bubble man there, blowing cosmic bubbles from heaven. So, Ken, do you want to say anything today?
Well, I've been enjoying listening, and yeah, I mean, I guess I'm deep into the Chiron wound and pushing through that, and certainly it's been a challenging time. And yeah, I mean, Shannon was like, well, what would you do if there's no money? And I was like, I'll probably still be blowing bubbles and making things out of cardboard. So yeah, I guess I haven't quite, cracked the nut yet. Although just today I was at the dump and someone told me, oh, you're famous. I saw you. There was like an article in the Norwich Times about me last fall. So it's a strange situation where, I've got a lot of social capital in some ways in this community for what I do. But then at the same time, we're really struggling around where's the money going to come from and work and visas and all this stuff. So it's a strange time for me.
Yeah, Ken, I've been watching Ken's work. If you don't know Ken, and you're remotely interested in looking at his Facebook page and seeing the most magical, happy, joyful, innocent children playing with the Magic Man, check it out. And you can see the creations, if you saw when Ken was speaking, behind his head. He's making these fabulous creations, and Shannon too. The two together, my heart goes, oh gosh, just the Chiron wound is the way to the gift. The Chiron wound of feeling like some kind of outcast who doesn't fit in and you're not even allowed in this country and who are you? And you need to extend your visa, and you need a job that pays 120,000 a year for that, and all of that stuff is the matrix. And I'm so very inviting in every way with my heart that all people be able to create purely from that imagination, joy, and innocence like Ken does, without those outer struggles of visas and finance and how do I pay the rent every month. I really feel that. That's why I'm having this conversation, is that I want every bit of everyone who watches this video to say, yes, let's move to that place of pure joy in our efforts, in our work, pure joy from what our heart is really good at. And Ken has been to my house for different ceremonies, for the Frey and Freya we had on the 13th last year in July, Friday the 13th. And he came up playing the ukulele, and my whole body went, wow, look at this guy. Like, what a party. Like, in every way, here's the party. Every bit and, vibration cell of that man's body was going, I'm ready to start the party. And I couldn't have done it without him. I had no idea who Ken was. And we were all up in the field in an intimate situation. We were doing tantric work with men and women. And he said, okay, we're going to just start making sound. And they don't have to be like word sounds, just make natural sounds. Let sound come out. And suddenly every one of us was making these like natural sounds were coming out of our bodies, and they were all merging together in this symphony. And I thought, this man is like some kind of shaman. He knows how to move the energy. This is some kind of a special soul who has that like invitation to the both sexual tantra and the shamanic magical realms. And so this is what I want man to embody with Mars in Cancer, is that feminine energy that loves the mother, loves the nurturing of children, loves the creativity, loves the sensuality, loves that art, loves all of those feminine things, and yet is virile masculine Mars. You hear that? That's what I want. That's what I want. And I want everyone who's watching this video to really meditate on that and bring that down, that man is not a paycheck. He does not have to work from fear. That man is beautiful, emotional, sensitive, magical being. And I want to know that man. Now I'll see what people want to say.
One of the things that was really coming to mind when I was listening to both Ken and you, Lolita, was on so many levels, I feel like we have an opportunity to give ourselves, and so many people don't do this, is allow ourselves pleasure in everything that we do. And whether it be physical pleasure, and I think that's why the tantric movement is becoming, in the sacred sexuality is becoming such a big thing, is many people are disconnected from that bodily pleasure and pleasure from the work that you do, in this, that tapping into that energy, and that when you can work from a place of getting enjoyment and pleasure from how you create, then it is just that like life sustaining thing. And that old matrix system is it working not from that place of pleasure, and or enjoyment, or and what was really popping into my mind was, while Mars is in Cancer, integrating feeling, the great benefic planet Jupiter is in its house of Sagittarius, where it is very free and comfortable with energy and being generous and is a little bit of a party in Sagittarius, and Venus is in Taurus, which is very sensual, and Mercury is in Gemini, and it's like social butterfly time. So there's all that energy in these is yeah, come play, come feel good. And I know for myself that has been something that has been extremely hard to learn, because I come from a background that is in New England, like New England homesteaders. You work, you toil, and it doesn't matter if you like it or not, you're going to get it done, and you have responsibilities, and playtime is like the last thing that you do. And if you don't get your chores done at the end of the day, well, then you don't get playtime. You go to bed because you're so tired. And it is really that reversal of what's the priority. That priority is feeling good in your own energy, creating from that place. And I can say that I know that is a very hard thing for me to flip, but I'm working on it. Right from the bodily sexual place to the workplace. Can I go to work and enjoy my work and make it fun, and have those like little conversations with strangers that are kind of flirty and just chattery, and whatever it's fun for any individual. Maybe it's like Emmeline's creativity with chocolate. Like, I would have never thought to put gold in chocolate, but that sounds amazing. And that's when we can tap into that, like Lolita said, that magical place when we start releasing that kind of heavy, you've got to do it this way, and step into that playful place.
I think as just reminded me as well, Holly, like I this week I decided to lead my first yoga class as I'm training, and I was so nervous about it and so excited. And afterwards I realized a few things, and it really connected with, because at the time the moon was on Saturn and Pluto opposing this beautiful North Node in Cancer. And I was like, and I realized that I felt this fear came into me of this, like, you don't have the right to do that. You're not experienced enough yet. You're not this or that. You haven't got a qualified teacher saying, teach. It's just like, do I have the right? And all these old kind of structures of, you need this right thing that you'd never attain anyway, if you think of it like that. Was meeting this kind of self-nurtured space where it's like, it's okay, like, come into the heart, like, it's okay, rest, like, be who you are and play. And then after that, and it kept bumping up against that throughout the rest of the week with lots of different things, and I kept realizing that it was that kind of cheeky, like, pixie kind of play thing, which is like, just play with it, and it's okay, and you are who you are. Like, coming back to that wound again, like, you have the right to be who you are. Like, it's in your chart, it's who you are, your personalities, your life circumstances. And how much of sort of matrix stuff ignores stuff like that, doesn't give you the right to be who you uniquely are. Yeah.
I noticed that in my sessions, people are starting to realize that their mission is not related to how we make money. So when I was first doing astrology, people had basically 3 questions for me. How am I going to make money? What's wrong with my relationship? Like, what's going on with my love life? And the other one would teeter on the health of their own personal body or their children. So it got boring for me. It was kind of boring. I felt like I cannot answer this question again. And what's happening now is that people are starting to realize that their mission has not to do with how they will make money. So when this group is doing their astrology, and many of you are certainly getting to the point where you're qualified, like Emmeline says, with or without anyone telling you you're qualified, to start really doing sessions for people such that you will be pointing them in the way of their joy. Like what the priority is your playtime. The priority is your imagination. The priority is your happiness. The priority is your sexuality, your sacred body. The priority is what music do you want to make? The priority is, do you want to put the gold in the chocolate? The priority is, do you want to set magical spells into that chocolate for lovemaking later? Like Water for Chocolate, which is one of those fabulous movies about lovemaking and chocolate. So I'm starting to see that people are more coming around to, what are my best skills for playing and enjoying my life? Not, oh gosh, how will I possibly make enough money to pay the bills, which we're still tutoring. I know people are still in that place. I definitely acknowledge that, absolutely. But if we can trust to start to really all of us support one another in that playtime is our priority. How will I most enjoy my life as the astrological reading? I'm sure that all of us will be able to fund everyone else. The Matrix was a system of you have to survive somehow. It was a condition of Mars all the time. You might not survive. You may not have a house. You may not be able to feed your family. Now Mars is going to be with the North Node of we're going to value that nurturing and that feminine and that feeling and those waters of creativity that come from sensuality and the mother principle. We're going to value that. And we earthlings have to bring that celestial possibility down. We have to say, yes, I'm going to co-create with you planets. As much as we believe the matrix around the systemized slavery and lack, which is what the matrix was, in my opinion, a dependency system, none of us can really do our astrological charts because, for instance, with Ken's astrological chart, I see a shaman who brings through other dimensional realities through playing and magic and art. And many of us have that kind of galactic shaman quality where what we're doing is bringing through the other dimensional realms here onto Earth. So we have a responsibility in a way to consciously create what we want this Earth to look like every single day and every thought and every creation. And if there's someone in your life who is an ancestor or an immediate relative, like my mom, and my mom and I have had this, conversation. When Claude quit his job, she said, well, first of all, how is the farm that he quit from going to survive without him? Like, oh my gosh, what are those people going to do without Claude? And I said, Mom, Claude's got to enjoy his life. He is a slave. He is being traumatized. He might die from a dangerous situation there at this point. And then the second thing is, of course, we were going off to Kauai, which was quite expensive. She's going, how are you going to afford it? Like, how are you going to do that? What will happen? And I said, Mom, I've been self-employed since I was 22 years old. I very, very rarely had a job that's like safe. I'm like, no job security at all. And it works. And if you've been to my house and you see some pictures of how I live, it works. It's working. It works to do what you love to do. And we have to have groups like this to support each other, talk to each other, get through this, make these major changes. But that's why we have groups. And I encourage everyone to get out there in a group, talk to each other, support each other, dream together. And that's how we will create the new reality. So the government's definitely not going to do it for us. Does everybody get that? Like, there's no way the government is going to create a new reality because, first of all, I think most of the government is artificially, citronically controlled. So if you haven't heard of black goo and all of that kind of stuff in the White House, you know, I don't think any of those people are anything but cyberbots. We have to do it. Voting is not going to do it. Our conscious vote every moment, every day of enjoying our life is the vote that counts. And that's what shifts the template. That's what causes the consciousness, all of us to rise, is all of us doing it, enjoying it. Even if it doesn't make any money and you want to make wall art with like paper mache and have like, you know, like behind Ken, like, you know, some fabulous dragons coming out of the wall, do that. And pretty soon you're going to be the most famous guy in Upper Valley. Because Ken already is. He doesn't know he is because he's still in his chiropractic wound, but everybody knows Ken and is going, wow, look at that magical guy. Look at what he creates. You know that bubble guy, he like stands on his head and plays the ukulele and stuff. That's fabulous. And I support you, Ken. Go ahead. We have about 7 minutes. Anybody want to start closing? Say anything else? All right, I'll start to close. So let's remember in the next 2 weeks, these planets are all going to start to make an opposition. And when they do, Earth will be in the center under a certain amount of tension from 4 different planets. There will also be some fabulous trine energy to Neptune and Pisces. We're in a decision point mode every single day. Do I want to live from that innocent, imaginative, beautiful, what was the word that this is what the title of the video is, priority of playtime experience here on the earth? Or am I going to choose to wake up to the alarm clock with a grudge of, I have to somehow survive this day? That's our decision. We have to make it every single day. And even if you don't have any income coming in, get up and do what you absolutely love to do. Just do it and see what happens. See if this template will support you. It'll be magical, just like Emmeline's chocolate business, where everyone's like, yeah, I'll take, well, me personally, $200 of that chocolate, thank you. Because that's how it works at this point. Gaia says, what do you want? And 5th dimension is instant manifestation. But Gaia cannot support, here's the other point that I have to say, with Saturn and Pluto having that 2027 or whatever it was year transit on the South Node, it can only happen every 2,000 years. Gaia cannot support any of the old structures. She cannot any longer support slavery, survival mode, fear, greed, lack, war. Gaia is not going to support that anymore. So the people who, even beyond astrologers who are reading those templates, Gaia is not going to support that. So working in or trying to please any of those old templates also is not going to work. That's why I'm going, go for what makes you most happy. Just do it and see what happens. every day, particularly over the next couple of weeks, every moment, what is positively playtime for me. That's Holly's, like, what feels good? And do that. Give yourself those 2 weeks, okay? All right, so we have just a couple of minutes. Anyone want to say anything else? All right, we're going to say bye-bye. Thanks, everybody, for listening.